Before we begin, let me explain some important Japanese cultural context for this story. In Japanese folklore, a kappa is a water creature that lives in rivers and ponds. They're often depicted as mischievous beings with turtle-like shells and bowl-shaped heads filled with water. Water children, or mizuko in Japanese, refers to the spirits of children who died before birth or in infancy. In times of extreme poverty, some families practiced mabiki, a form of population control where newborn children were sometimes abandoned to ensure family survival. Jizo statues are Buddhist guardian deities, often placed to protect children and travelers. Small stone Jizo statues are commonly found throughout Japan, especially in rural areas and near temples. The new moon, when the moon is completely dark, holds special significance in Japanese folklore and is often associated with supernatural events. Now, let's begin our story. That day I was riding in my friend Sam's car, heading toward an abandoned village, deep in the mountains near the prefectural border. There were 3 of us, as usual. Sam was driving, I sat in the passenger seat, and Kevin occupied the entire back seat. We had left town around 10 in the morning. After stopping for lunch, it was now past 2 o'clock. We had about an hour left to reach our destination, the abandoned village. The car was currently climbing a gentle uphill slope along a river at a leisurely pace. I looked down at the map spread open in my lap. The abandoned village we were heading to was no longer marked on the map. Our destination was marked with a red pen in aggressive circles. The contour lines were quite close together, indicating it was in a very remote location. Suddenly, I heard light snoring from the back seat. I think about this every time, Sam said, glancing in the rearview mirror with a tone more of exasperation than annoyance. How can this guy use us as his personal taxi service and then sleep peacefully in the back? Today's day trip to the abandoned village was Kevin's idea. This abandoned village apparently has a mysterious well, Kevin had told us yesterday in the university cafeteria, his eyes sparkling like a child's. Kevin was a genuine occult enthusiast. Sam and I had already been to many such spots under Kevin's guidance. Of course, many were disappointments, but occasionally we found something interesting. Kevin gets carsick easily, I said. It's better than having him throw up in the car, isn't it? Hey, look, Kevin's drooling, Sam observed. According to Kevin's research, the abandoned village had a well that was usually dry but filled with water only on new moon nights. Supposedly the corpse of a kappa rested at the bottom of this well. If someone could drink the well water, their lifespan would extend by 50 years. A well where a kappa sleeps, I murmured. Sam yawned as if to cover my words. Come to think of it, doesn't eating kappa meat make you immortal? I asked. Oh, you might be confusing it with mermaid meat. But there are such legends about kappa too. There are many different stories about kappa since they're widely distributed creatures with rich folklore variations. I half listened to the latter part of Sam's explanation while looking out the window, wondering if the well water might be infused with kappa essence. Would this trip be a hit or miss? Either way, since we were going, I hoped to bring back at least an interesting story. By the way, tonight would be a moonless night. Sam, if there really is water in that well, would you drink it? No way, setting aside the longevity claims. You never know what might be dissolved in unmanaged well water. Right, neither Sam nor I had any intention of drinking it. However, Kevin, currently sleeping behind us, was apparently eager to try it. After all, he had brought his favorite coffee cup, sugar sticks and instant coffee for the occasion. Hey, his drool is dripping onto the seat. Kevin, Sam shouted, looking in the rearview mirror. But Kevin just leaned against the seat, sleeping peacefully. He was probably dreaming dreams that would delight any occultist. After Sam stopped the car to wake Kevin up, we drove for another hour and a half. The road became narrower and more deteriorated as we progressed. Being naturally anxious, I began to worry and started doubting whether our map was correct. Just when I was beginning to have serious doubts, we passed a small shrine with many stone statues lined up. and finally arrived at our destination, the abandoned village. "Oh, here it is. This is it," Kevin shouted as he got out of the car. Though called an abandoned village, it still retained the form of a village. Several dilapidated houses were scattered both horizontally and vertically, clinging to the mountainside like barnacles. The wooden houses themselves were rotting and looked so fragile you could probably kick them over. Knee-high grass grew wild everywhere, making it difficult to distinguish where the roads used to be. Below the village flowed a small river, beyond which rose another mountain, more like a wall of dense green vegetation. "Hey, over here this way," Kevin's voice called out. I had been standing by our parked car gazing around absently, when I snapped back to attention and headed toward Kevin. Sam, who had been the last to exit the car, followed behind me. Kevin stood in a small space at the edge of the village, almost within the forest itself. "The Kappa Well," Kevin said, pointing. What Kevin called a well was made of stone, roughly square-shaped, about 70 centimeters on each side. It had a stone lid on top, but no roof or pulley system. Having imagined something more impressive when I heard well, I was honestly disappointed. However, old village wells were probably typically like this. "Hey, you guys, give me a hand. Let's open this lid," Kevin said. Though Sam and I were reluctant, the three of us worked together to open the lid. It was incredibly heavy. The moment we shifted the lid, cold air brushed against our cheeks, like opening a refrigerator. A dark, deep hole gaped open before us, a cavity dug straight down into the earth. When I peered in, I felt as if insects were crawling along my neck. "Wah!" Kevin suddenly shouted into the hole. His voice bounced off the well's inner walls, returning in multiple overlapping echoes. Next, Kevin picked up a stone from the ground and threw it in. Clack! A faint sound indicated that this well contained no water. "It's dry," Sam observed. The three of us exchanged silent glances. Kevin pulled a flashlight from his backpack and shone it into the well. The light failed to illuminate the bottom of the well. Either the light was too weak, or the well was extremely deep. Of course, there was no sign of the Kappa supposedly resting there. "Can't see anything," Kevin said. "It looks at least 30 meters deep." "I thought it might be a shallow well, but apparently not," Sam commented. He picked up a stone from the ground, intending to throw another one in, but then paused, looking at the stone in his hand thoughtfully. Eventually, he didn't throw it and turned to Kevin instead. "So, what do we do now?" Kevin responded energetically. "That's obvious, isn't it? According to the story, this well fills with water on new moon nights, after the moon comes out, so let's wait until then." In other words, we were waiting. Though Kevin's words were predictable, I looked around with a groan. An abandoned village, waiting here for darkness would be quite horror-like and exciting. If I were alone, I would definitely decline. For now, we decided to return to the car. Checking the time, it was 4:30. Kevin had thoughtfully brought playing cards, so we chose a spot with minimal grass growth. Using a car sunshade as a mat, we played poker. Kevin won by a landslide. Then we tried Indian poker, where Sam dominated. I didn't win a single poker game. "About that well," Sam began during a game of president. His tone was casual, almost like talking to himself. "What exactly is the story about the Kappa?" After discarding his cards, Kevin asked. "Huh? You asking me? You're the only one who knows," Sam replied. "Ah, right," Kevin began his tale. "Long ago, a married couple living in this village found a Kappa by the river. The husband snuck up behind it, clubbed it with a stick, and captured it to bring back to the village." "A Kappa? Why?" Kevin laughed at my question. "To eat it. Seriously. Kappa meat was believed to grant immortality, or maybe they were just hungry, who knows. When they were about to eat it, the Kappa woke up and tried to escape. Naturally, they chased it. The Kappa fled and ended up jumping into the well. Oh, too bad. Then the villagers covered the well with a lid. The Kappa screamed inside the well for 3 days and 3 nights. On the 4th day, during the new moon night, the screaming stopped. The Kappa had died. The well wasn't directly connected to underground water veins. No matter how good a swimmer a Kappa might be, without an exit, there was nothing it could do. The well dried up after that. The water disappeared, but strangely, water only springs up during new moons. Kappa water, this is according to an old man from the neighboring village. Second-hand information though. Revolution, Kevin suddenly exclaimed, playing a card. Revolution returned, Sam countered. Gah, Kevin groaned. We continued playing cards, chatting and swatting away bugs to pass the time. Before we knew it, the surroundings had begun to grow dim. Once this started, it happened quickly. Within minutes, it became too dark to clearly see the card faces as night penetrated our surroundings. Mountain nights are dark. You can see nothing. Insects chirped, birds called, and leaves rustled. There was no moon in the sky. A light flickered on. Kevin had pulled a camping gas lantern from his bag and lit it. "Let's go," he said. Sam and I grabbed our flashlights and headed toward the village well. All three of us remained silent. Somehow, the atmosphere felt different from when sunlight had been shining. Dark. So incredibly dark. I never realized how much things could change. I felt a fear-like sense of unease. Our lights illuminated the well with its open lid. I looked around. The darkness seemed to have poured out from within the well, enveloping everything. "Now then, will there be water or not?" Kevin announced loudly, apparently trying to lighten the mood. I chuckled slightly, feeling a bit relieved. "Well then, here we have a stone. I'm going to throw it in to check." With his final "yeah," Kevin threw the stone into the well. Splash. "What?" I gasped reflexively. There was a sound. Splash. It was a response from something at the bottom of the well. There was water in the well now. Water that definitely hadn't been there during the day. "Whoa! Seriously, amazing!" Kevin exclaimed. I was frozen. Even Kevin, who had thrown the stone, was surprised. Sam, supposedly the calmest among us, looked down and began muttering something under his breath after hearing the result. Sam was frightening me. Tidal forces. No, that's not related. Even during a new moon, there's not enough influence to raise groundwater levels, and there are no seas or lakes around here. Did Earth's rotation accelerate? That's ridiculous. But then, I looked at Sam, who raised his head. From the beginning there was water. After saying this in choppy sentences, Sam picked up 2 stones from the ground and held his hand over the well. Before I could wonder what he intended, he dropped 1 stone. Splash. The sound of water. Sam immediately shifted his hand position and dropped the 2nd stone. Clack. This was different. A different sound entirely. What was this? What had Sam done? Probably stones or other hard objects have accumulated and are protruding above the water surface, Sam explained to my bewildered expression. When Kevin threw the stone during the day, it happened to land on one of those hard objects. It was too deep to see inside, and since we already had information that it was dry, we stopped checking after 1 attempt. I was completely confused. All I could think was how Sam remained ridiculously calm even in this situation. I have to admire how thoroughly you can think things through, I said. These were words of genuine admiration. Kevin must have felt the same way, but Sam looked troubled. I didn't want to be right. What? Ignoring my question, Sam called to Kevin. "Kevin, you've got various things in that bag, right? Do you have rope and a bucket?" Yeah, I do. I heard beforehand that there was no pulley. Are we going to use them?" "Yes." Kevin pulled a small plastic bucket and thin rope from his bag. Sam took them, silently tied the rope to the bucket handle, gripped the rope end firmly, and dropped the bucket into the well. We heard the bucket hit the water. "Hey Sam, what did you mean by I didn't want to be right?" Kevin asked again on my behalf. But Sam didn't answer, manipulating the rope in small movements to scoop water into the bucket. Then suddenly, Sam pulled the rope sharply. At that moment something made a sound from within the well, like a castle made of building blocks collapsing. It was the sound of accumulated objects crumbling from below. Sam slowly pulled the rope up. If Kevin's Kappa story is true, Sam began. Huh? Caught off guard by the sudden statement, I made a strange sound. Sam continued regardless. That story says the well dried up because a Kappa entered it. They blamed the Kappa for the well drying up. That makes sense. I still didn't understand what Sam was getting at. But the well is actually still usable. There's water, and we can draw it like this, even if it's not suitable for drinking. There are countless other uses. Watering fields, laundry, washing dishes. The villagers deliberately created the Kappa story to make a perfectly usable well appear dry. Sam continued pulling the rope. I could only follow his movements with my eyes. Even though there's water, they can't use it. This water is unusable. The bucket reached the well's edge. Sam grabbed and lifted it. Inside the yellow bucket was clear water and something else. A long thin stone. I never expected to catch something like this, Sam said with a bitter laugh. Do you guys know what this is? We didn't. Both Kevin and I shook our heads. Sam pulled the object from the bucket. Definitely a stone shaped like a human figure, but without a head or face. It looked like a bowling pin. Next, Sam reached into his pocket and pulled out another stone, a round one. He slowly placed the round stone on top of the elongated one. Under the flashlight, the round stone had facial features. Have you ever heard that Kappa were once metaphors for children who were abandoned due to poverty? What was Sam talking about? Such abandoned children are called water children. Mizuko. A chill ran through me like lukewarm air caressing my entire body. My gaze turned toward the well. I had the illusion that something was crawling up from within. You might not understand, but there's a child clinging to this. Sam indicated the foot portion of the statue in his hand. There was indeed a small protrusion. But was that supposed to be a child? This is a Mizuko Jizo, a guardian statue for water children. And it was in the well. Do you understand? Something was crawling up from the well. What? What was it? Water children. Abandoned infants. Children, plural. Why did I think that? This isn't a well. It's a grave. Probably not just one child. A communal cemetery. Remember the Kappa story mentioned eating. Not directly eating the Kappa, but abandoning children so the family could survive. Sam held out the bucket to Kevin. Want to drink? In a way, it might be longevity water. After all, these are water children. It's full of essence from children who should have lived decades longer. Kevin shook his head weakly with a half smile. No way I'm drinking that. Right. How about you? Sam offered the bucket to me. No, impossible, no way. Right. Sam chuckled and poured the water back into the well. That marked the end of our investigation. We closed the lid and placed the headless Mizuko Jizo on top. Then all three of us put our hands together in prayer. As we left the village in Sam's car, I noticed something for the first time. The small shrine near the village entrance had many stone statues lined up. As we passed, Sam said quietly, "Those are all Mizuko Jizo too." At that moment I felt goosebumps rise. Frightening. So frightening. More than ghosts or monsters. More than darkness. More than anything else. Humans are the most frightening of all. The car interior fell completely silent. Only Sam's yawning could be heard. Even Kevin said nothing. Sorry, that was a joke. Sam said quietly after yawning. I heard him but didn't react. It was a joke, he repeated more firmly. Finally I responded. What? Everything. A joke. All made up on the spot. I couldn't understand. I looked at Sam, who glanced at me and chuckled as if highly amused. Sorry, I didn't think you'd believe it so easily. When I pulled up the bucket, there happened to be a perfectly shaped stone, so I got carried away. Then I couldn't find a good stopping point. Sorry. But the Kappa story, the water children, the idea that Kappa represent abandoned children, is a real theory. But think about it. If villagers really did such things, why would they deliberately create metaphors to tell others about their crimes, or rather their shame? Not everyone would understand, and maybe they felt regret. I understood it. And even if that Kappa story was meant to express regret, well, it's possible the villagers didn't know about such metaphors, and the story was coincidentally passed down. But even so, there are no children buried in that well. How can you be sure? Simple. It would interfere with daily life. What? Mountain farming villages rarely depend solely on wells, since there are usually other water sources. If they still dug such a deep well, it was because they truly needed it. No one would be stupid enough to throw children into such a necessary well. There are plenty of other places to dispose of bodies. But the Mizuko Jizo. That was fake, just a regular stone with a completely different shape. The ones at the village entrance were ordinary Jizo statues too. The well water. Wells can dry up and refill naturally. I looked toward the back seat, seeking Kevin's help. Kevin was asleep. I had wondered why it was so quiet. Useless guy. Don't tell Kevin, let him sleep a bit longer, Sam said. I fell into a daze again. I had been deceived, completely and beautifully fooled. But somehow, I felt rescued from the depths. Of course, I was annoyed. That feeling was definitely growing, but more than that, I felt relief from the bottom of my heart. Thank goodness it was a joke. If Sam said it was a joke, then surely it was. I decided to believe that. So I decided not to worry about why the well lid was made of heavy stone. So I decided not to think about why Sam's expression seemed gentler than usual. So I decided not to ask Sam about those small tooth-like objects I remembered seeing in the bucket along with the water. After all, it was all a joke. Or was it?